The byline from Mixed News is GeForce Now brings AAA gaming to Meta Quest 3. This is from Tomislav Basmalinovich. I practiced that last name so many times and I still flubbed it. Basmalinovich is his last name. Sorry about that. NVidia has announced that GeForce Now for Meta Quest 2 and Quest 3S, Pico headsets, and Apple Vision Pro, the service turns the devices into cloud-powered gaming PCs. This means it will be possible to stream gamepad-compatible flat PC games, in high quality to the headsets and play them on a virtual big screen. There is no mention of PCVR gaming. Subscribers to GeForce Now Performance or Ultimate benefit from RTX and DLSS technologies. If you're on the free plan, it is ad supported. Your queue times are the longest. I don't know what the average queue time is for GeForce Now. I was trying to look around for something like that and could not find anything. And it's shorter for performance and the shortest for ultimate. And then one thing that they're instituting this year is monthly playtime. So if you subscribe by the end of 2024, I'll read this verbatim actually, existing GeForce Now paid members as of December 31st, 2024 will continue to enjoy unlimited playtime until their first billing cycle on or after January 1st, 2026, as long as your premium membership remains uninterrupted and in good standing. If you subscribe now, because now we're in 2025 at this point, if you're on the performance plan, you get 100 hours or 15 hours rollover, and the same thing for the ultimate. The other thing the free plan limits you to is the session time. Actually, all these have session time limits. So if you're on the free plan, you can only play for 1 hour at a time before your session stops and you have to reload it. The max is 1080p and 60 frames per second. If you go to the performance plan, you get 6 hours per session, 1440p and then 6 frames per second again. If you're on the ultimate plan, you can do 8 hours per session up to 4K at 240 frames per second. I'm glad that this is happening because this is opening up cloud gaming to something outside of the Xbox Game Pass, because there were two cloud computing companies before. One of them is shut down. One was called Plutosphere. That one was shut down, and then Shadow PC is still floating around. But what GeForce is doing is it's allowing people to now play cloud gaming inside their headsets, or will when it launches. You can play cloud gaming inside your headset on something other than Xbox Game Pass. You had to be on Xbox Game Pass. The game had to be there for you to be able to play it. This will allow you to play stuff on Steam, on the Epic launcher, so stuff like that and stuff like this. What this is doing is this giving you another reason to play to put the headset on, other than I want to go play a virtual reality or a mixed reality game. So I love the utility of this. I will stress test it when I get it. Last year, they introduced a feature where if you plugged in a capture card into the side of your headset and your USB-C slot, you could actually use a capture card to bring in, let's say if I want to play the new Zelda game, for instance, I will plug my switch into my capture card and plug the other end into my headset, and then I can actually play Zelda Echoes of Wisdom inside my headset. But that is a wired solution, and you need to have, of course, the console inside your house. And because you're taking up your USB-C slot, you then have to buy an additional adapter called the USB-C splitter to be able to still charge your headset while you're playing. It's a good way to add more utility to the headset, but more stuff like this, where it's like an all-in-one solution, and you don't need any external additional equipment to be able to play flat games, I think it's a good thing. This should be, knock on wood, if this rolls out well, it should be a home run. Second story is from Survios. They're the makers of Alien Rogue Incursion. And for those who do not know, when that game released, and I knew this about a week ahead of time, but I couldn't say anything as I was in an embargo. Alien Rogue Incursion is actually, the full title is Alien Rogue Incursion Part 1. When you first boot up the game, on the title screen, it says Alien Rogue Incursion, and then in like a red font with a red rectangle around it, it says Part 1 right away. A lot of the reason why this game has mixed reviews on Steam is because of that Part 1. So in response to that, they decided to put out the Steam note, a message to our value community. We have recently received a lot of feedback about the inclusion of Part 1 and Alien Rogue Incursion's opening moments within the achievement trophy list and store pages. Never do we intend to mislead or cause confusion about what this game is. We now understand how the addition of Part 1 could be interpreted. Part 1 is a standalone adventure which ends with a cliffhanger, and we wanted to let fans know that there will be more on the horizon, so we decided to confirm Part 2 alongside the launch. The entire team of Survios are fans of the Alien universe and cannot wait to tell more stories about Zula Hendrix, Davis, and others. While we have nothing to announce about Part 2 beyond that it is in active development, we promise to share more exciting updates at a later date. We appreciate the excitement and passion you have shown towards Alien Rogue Incursion and hope that you enjoy exploring Perdan and Castor's Cradle as much as we enjoy creating it. They could have fixed this entire problem this entire problem by just not calling it part 1. And if they were insisting on doing that, I wish they had been upfront about that in the marketing ahead of time. Hey, this is part 1 of a 2 or 3 or whatever part story, as opposed to just, hey, it's launch. Oh, by the way, this is part 1. Now, speaking to someone who has played the game in its entirety, I can vouch for what they said. It is a complete story, and it does end on a cliffhanger. So they're doing damage control almost unnecessarily. What they could have just said is, we're very excited that this game is now out in the wild. By the way, we're working on a sequel. They could have said it like that instead of the whole part 1 shenanigans. So it just feels like a botched move in the marketing department. And since we don't know anything about when part 2 is coming, that could be coming a year from now, 2 years from now, who knows? Like when the Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge first launched, even though that is a complete story, ILM Labs was very upfront saying, hey, part 2 is coming. We are going to do more in this world. We're not going to call it part 1. We're just going to say there will be more Tales from the Galaxy's Edge. And then Jurassic World Aftermath did the same thing. They didn't name Jurassic World Aftermath part 1 until part 2 was on the way, and then they said, okay, more is coming, because part 1 of that game actually ends on the cliffhanger. You're trapped in the room with raptors banging on the door. So I feel like this is a self-inflicted wound. They shot themselves in the foot with this, and they're trying to drag it back in, but it has definitely affected the response of the game, because now it's sitting at 498 reviews on Steam with a rating category of mixed. That sucks. And yeah, just, hey, Survios, next time, don't call it part 1. Just don't do that. Next story. This one will be quick. The Quest Pro is no longer available for sale. If you go to Meta's website right now, there's a graphic on the Meta store. If you go to the Quest Pro page, and it basically says the Quest Pro is no longer available for sale. Here, come buy a Quest 3. I hope that Meta learned a lot of lessons from the rollout of the Quest Pro, because it was a good idea in theory. But number one, they announced that they were going to release another headset for a third of the, well, they didn't announce the price, but everyone assumed it to be at least half the price, if not a third of the price, with a more powerful chipset in the year. Everyone knew that the Quest 3 was already rumored, and Meta pretty much has said, yeah, we're going to release the Quest 3 at some point. So are you going to buy a $1,500 headset that is marginally better than the Quest 2, but it has eye tracking and face tracking? Or are you going to wait a year and buy the latest and greatest with a much improved chipset? We didn't know anything about the Quest 3 at this point, but that alone, just knowing that there was a better headset coming, kind of put off a lot of people from buying this. And I will say this, so I'm blue in the face. Software sells hardware. They released a pretty decent spec headset, not a great one, but a decent spec headset, and then had the software to support it. If you're releasing the productivity headset and you don't have any productivity applications, what are people going to do in this? Because they said up front over and over and over again, this thing is not meant for gaming. So if they had launched, like, for instance, the Microsoft Office partnership that they actually rolled out about a year later, which ended up just being the web apps. But if you had the Microsoft Office integration right away, if you had photo editing software in there right away, you have video editing software in there right away, it would have done better, because then people would have had a reason to put that headset on to use applications and actually work in VR. They didn't have any of that. So everything was browser based and just not. There was Horizon Workrooms, but that was just a virtual meeting setting, and frankly, people can just meet in Discord or meet in Google Voice Chat or Google Meets. So there wasn't like a massive incentive to buy a Quest Pro to do that. So my big hope is that if they release another Pro 2 down the line, which I fully believe that they're going to, they will learn from this and have a software suite ready to go. Because unlike Apple and Samsung, who is working with Google, they don't have software suite. Meta doesn't have a whole bunch of software suites ready to go and apps that are ready to use on their headset right away, whereas Apple has an entire ecosystem built around apps and productivity and things like that, and so does Google. So hopefully Meta learns from this, and if they release a Pro 2 eventually, whenever that happens, they're gonna have software ready to go, because otherwise it's gonna fail like the first one did. Next, Meta Meta bricked a bunch of headsets coming out of Christmas. Okay, so right around the time that people were opening their new Quest 3s or 3Ss, not a Quest 2 because Quest 2s were discontinued, there was an update that Meta was pushing at that time, a software update. And depending on how out of date your headset was, because remember, when these headsets are open, they've been sitting on the shelf for God knows how long. They were in a warehouse for forever how long, and then they were either shipped directly to people or they were shipped to brick and mortar stores like Walmart and Best Buy, and then people bought them there. So these things were like multiple cycles of OS updates out of date, because Meta updates the OS pretty much every month at this point. So what happened was, when people first put the headset on and powered it on, it said, hey, you have an update to do. And then when you went to go do an update, it bricked the headset. This happened to thousands and thousands of people. So imagine if you're a parent who bought a headset for your child and they're so excited they finally get to play whatever, I am cat, I am security, gorilla tag, whatever. So a lot of people ended up and you go, it was all over Reddit, it was all over Facebook groups, and they basically said this thing's a piece of junk, and a lot of people ended up just returning the headsets and getting refunds and ruining Christmas for a lot of people, which is awful. They're doing the right thing by replacing them for free, but how many people didn't bother going to support and just said this thing is broken and just went and refunded it in the first place? There's a lot of lapsed customers that Meta just lost because of this. It is a complete and utter nightmare for them. In the biggest selling season of your year, you sold probably more headsets than you probably will a good chunk of this year up until this year's Christmas. And to now know that you bricked it that bad, just this caps off a year of XR professionals doing just dumb things. The Immerse rollout with Visor was an absolute mess. What Pimax is doing now is absolutely a mess. Big Screen Beyond, there were people who were getting lopsided facial interfaces for their custom facial interface for their new $1,000 headset. It just seems like there was like mistake after mistake after mistake, and this isn't like a small developer releasing the game early or something like that. Batman Arkham Shadow releasing the day early because someone slipped and hit a button early. The Behemoth release on Steam because Steam approved it in QA hours before it was supposed to go live, when Skydance had already said, hey, the PCVR version is going to come later, or the Steam version is going to come later. There's just been like botch after botch after botch this year, and it makes the entire industry just look bush league when stuff like this happens. This annoyed me to no end, and I wasn't even affected by this, but I have a lot of friends who bought headsets for their kids, and I immediately, once I found out this was happening, I started sending out text messages saying, hey, whatever you do, don't update your headset yet. Something's wrong with Meta, I'll contact you when it's over. And then I let them know when they were good to go. But a friend of mine did not let his kid play with the headset that they had just opened for 2 days until this was fixed. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Should not have happened. And I hope that dumb shit like this doesn't happen in 2025. SteamVR saw near record usage in December. This one's gonna be quick. The new Steam survey came out. Every month, Steam releases the results of their survey that tells you, among other things, how many people are using the VR headset of their 130 million Steam users. The percentage of people who use the VR headset was 2.1.3. This means, if you do the math, that more than 3 million users were using Steam VR in December. And since most people who opened their Quest 3S's on Christmas or so probably only had like a few days to get theirs in, and most of these surveys happen at the beginning of the month, not at the end of the month, that percentage is probably going to stay in January, as there are people who just got Quest headsets that may have checked out Steam VR in January. The numbers normally hover somewhere around like 2.5 to 2.75 million every single month. So it's just an encouraging sign. There was no inciting event other than people buying headsets this year. Last year in December, on December 31st, 2023, was when UAVR was first released. So the January numbers were pretty good, but even then it didn't go over 3 million. It was like 2.9 million or something like that of people in January who were back in the PCVR because of UAVR. So that's an encouraging sign to see. I'm happy to see it. Last story. This is something really cool that happened to a friend of mine. Last night, my buddy Farmer True was streaming Starship Troopers Continuum, the new Starship Troopers game from XR Games that was pretty much written off before it came out. I haven't even played it yet. And yesterday I learned that Johnny Rico himself, Casper Van Dien, is a partner Twitch streamer, and he always plays Starship Troopers games. You see Starship Troopers Extermination over and over and over again. A very cool thing happened where he was looking for someone to raid after he was done with the stream, and he raided my friend Farmer. So this is what happened.
Welcome in. If you either do VR content, let me know, and I'll be happy to give you a follow back.
And there you go.
64 raiders from Casper Van Dien have joined.
Hey!
Zenop17 says.
Tomb Raid.
Doc2 Raid says.
Rico's rough.
Yo, what is going on? You are too kind. Welcome in, raiders.
Trooper.
Raiders.
So Farmer got probably the biggest raid I think he's ever gotten. Very, very cool moment. So I want to show that at the end of this news video of just a really neat thing that happened.